The direction that Asia is heading towards is concerning. Throughout the continent, both US allies and adversaries are increasingly acquiring advanced missile technology. Nations with nuclear capabilities are pursuing large-scale modernization projects. Progress towards democratization is slowing, and in certain instances, reversing. Additionally, while the United States' economic influence is diminishing, China's influence and political power is on the rise. Although the United States is not responsible for the concerning patterns in Asia, its excessively militaristic strategy in the region is arguably exacerbating the situation. The US is intensifying tensions and raising the possibility of unnecessary conflict by deploying troops and military equipment and encouraging its allies to expand their armament. Additionally, by regarding the Chinese and North Korean military dangers as the region's only significant issues, the United States is giving up control of the economic playing field to Beijing and forfeiting its capability to address underlying causes of regional insecurity such as inequality, technological disparity, climate change, and through non-military approaches. For this video, we turn our attention to Asia. We'll discuss the US's defense foreign policy and, moreover, the risks associated with over-militarization. My name is ZeroFox, and on this channel, we look to break down the bias-based narratives spun by governments and mainstream media, and instead provide you with transparency and truth. If this is your first time on the channel, I welcome you. Let's begin. For too long, Washington has relied too heavily on military tactics in its dealings with Asia. In attempts to maintain US primacy in the region, Presidents Obama and Trump implemented the pivot to Asia and free and open Indo-Pacific respectively. These initiatives were driven by concerns over China's increasing economic, political, and military clout, and were primarily associated with the military efforts to maintain American superiority. To counter China's naval modernization, the Biden administration has taken ambitious defense initiatives in the Indo-Pacific. This includes encouraging Japan's development of hypersonic weapons and extending the range of its missiles. The US has also supported the acquisition of nuclear-powered submarines with Australia and the United Kingdom. Additionally, the US plans to expand its military presence across Oceania, establishing new bases and radar systems. Biden follows Trump's approach to China's nuclear expansion with a militarized strategy. Trump's administration formulated a 30-year nuclear modernization plan, costing up to $1.7 trillion. Despite having a significant nuclear advantage, Biden supports Trump's proposal and plans to invest in nuclear cruise missiles, nuclear defense for Northeast Asia, and a fleet of 145 B-21 stealth bombers, which is more than 6 times the present bomber's fleet. Biden has adopted an exclusively military strategy towards China and North Korea, despite its ongoing efforts to enhance its nuclear and missile arsenal. This includes the creation of tactical nuclear weapons, hypersonic glide vehicles, and railcar-launched ballistic missiles, which can evade missile defenses. Similar to Obama's strategic approach, the Biden administration is prioritizing defense activities instead of diplomacy, utilizing sanctions and military presence to persuade North Korea to abandon its nuclear program. South Korea and the United States lifted restrictions on the range and payload capabilities of South Korea's domestically made missiles, which were put in place 42 years ago to prevent missile proliferation in the region. Despite the country's political opposition, the Biden administration supports South Korea in developing submarine-launched ballistic missiles and a nuclear capability. The current administration also provides assistance to South Korea's military in the development of precision-guided conventional missiles capable of both preemptive and decapitation strikes against North Korea's leadership. To be fair, blaming the United States for China and North Korea's nuclear and missile advancements is unwarranted. The Biden administration, like its predecessors, believe that they have a responsibility to deter China's military buildup. However, taking action doesn't necessarily mean deploying more military equipment, positioning of American forces near adversaries, or encouraging allies to develop more weapons, as these actions will only intensify tensions in the region. But the West is not the only one responsible. In recent years, global tensions have been focused on the escalating turbulence between Taipei and Beijing. But truthfully, the threat of a conflict in Asia stretches far beyond the Taiwan Strait. Across the region, countries engage in their own quiet arms race to avoid being left behind. But with the increase of militarization, any miscalculation could lead to a conflict in a region already riven by borders, disputes, and old rivalries. East Asia, Japan, and South Korea are rapidly modernizing in response to growing threats from China and North Korea, whose leadership is particularly sensitive to signs of military modernization in the near region. Meanwhile, India's increased military military investment after continual clashes with China on the disputed Himalayan border risks inflaming tensions with its longtime rival Pakistan. Similarly, countries with overlapping territorial claims in the South China Sea may struggle to maintain the diplomatic status quo. The fact of the matter is that the region is trapped in a security dilemma, a geopolitical spiral, where countries repeatedly reinforce their own militaries in response to the growth of their neighbours' forces. Biden's strategy risks escalating conflicts by bringing hostile military groups together, endangering the authority and nuclear stockpiles of China and North Korea. This prompts both China and North Korea to invest in advanced military technology to keep the US at bay. This expansion of military capabilities pressures neighbouring countries to cease cooperating with Washington, thus extending their influence beyond their borders. US-China arms competition is both risky and counterproductive. As of February 7, 2023, the Pentagon has warned lawmakers on Capitol Hill that China now has more ground-based facilities capable of launching nuclear missiles than the US. But there's one big catch. Many of China's missile silos are sitting empty, and perhaps just as importantly, the count of China's ground-based missile launches doesn't include submarines and aircraft-based nuclear capabilities, areas where the US has a very real advantage. The caveats are tremendously important. In the absence of a nuclear treaty with China, a nuclear and numerical build-up from both countries is inevitable. The South China Sea is a contested and resource-rich area where up to $5 trillion in commodities pass annually. Over this economic powerhouse, China and the United States engage in intense superpower rivalry, leading to a new Cold War. China dominates the region economically, surpassing the US in trade and investments, and holds an advantage with its multilateral institutions and agreements. The Biden administration can limit military investments to neutralise adversaries' power projection and instead prioritise non-military means to address the root causes of future insecurity. This includes reducing the wealth gap, providing climate adaptation subsidies, and penalising corruption and authoritarianism. Collectively, these measures can prevent human rights crises and civil wars. Furthermore, the administration continues to supply security aid to the Philippines. The Philippines provide the United States with expanded access to its military bases, providing US forces with a greater strategic footing on the southeastern edge of the South China Sea, close to a self-ruled Taiwan. The US has stepped up efforts to expand its indo-pacific security operations in recent months, amid mounting concerns over China's aggressive territorial posturing throughout the region. In order to combat and deter the growing US presence in the Pacific, China has fully militarised at least 3 of several islands it built in the disputed South China Sea, arming them with anti-ship and anti-aircraft missile systems, laser, jamming and fighter jets, in an increasingly aggressive move that threatens all nations operating nearby. Over the past 20 years, we have witnessed the largest military build-up since World War II by the PRC. They've advanced all their capabilities, and that build-up of weaponisation is destabilising the region. In summary, the United States is undermining both Asia's and its own future by prioritising missiles and submarines as the sole means of ensuring security, neglecting its economic standing and failing to address the root causes of violence. As a result, the precarious situation is emerging in the Indo-Pacific region. Unless the Biden administration alters its course, it risks being held accountable for the next tragedy to befall Asia. China's assertive leadership and growing economy has not led to the anticipated level of foreign competition, and the US sentiment towards China has become increasingly negative. However, the importance of a stable relationship between the two countries remains unchanged to prevent global instability and economic decline. The relationship between China and the United States, once competitive and cooperative at times, has rapidly deteriorated into an all-out confrontation. Washington must prioritise the development of technologies and talent to maintain US economic success. This requires both creating and commercialising future technologies, establishing global standards, and leading trade negotiations to prevent and miss export opportunities for US workers. Undoubtedly, the relationship between the United States and China is fraught with security tensions, as Xi's China poses a formidable challenge. In various areas, Beijing's policies run counter to US interests, and it is improbable that they will change in the near future. Therefore, Washington must adopt a resolute yet equitable approach, willing to engage in dialogue, but not for the sake of it. It should be also prepared for a prolonged and arduous process to achieve mutually beneficial cooperation with China, while safeguarding its own interests. In the past, cooperation between China and the United States has been significant. During the 2008 financial crisis, through close coordination during the Strategic Economic Dialogue, Washington was able to persuade Beijing not to sell US securities, which was crucial in preventing another Great Depression. Chinese and US decision makers can enhance their coordination through frequent and candid meetings, without requiring friendship as a prerequisite. Despite political securities and ideological tensions, cooperation on issues such as macroeconomic stability, pandemic preparedness, climate change, combating terrorism, nuclear non-proliferation, and the promotion of peace and prosperity within Asia can still be pursued based on self-interests. Regular meetings between the US Secretary of State and the Chinese State Councillor is a positive starting point. Regular communication between the US Treasury Secretary and China's new economic czar would also be encouraged, as should conversations between the Federal Reserve Chair and China's top central banker. The US should prioritise controlling weapons-related and dual-use technologies and distinguish between essential and non-essential alliances. While some decoupling is inevitable, complete decoupling is illogical, and negotiation should be pursued to secure mutually beneficial trade opportunities with China. Both countries need to work towards expanding mutually beneficial economic opportunities rather than exchanging accusations. Ignoring the security tensions between China and the United States is unrealistic. Americans have valid concerns after the Russian invasion of Ukraine that China may coerce Taiwan. Strengthening deterrence measures and improving relationships with allies are key to addressing the issue. US allies and partners prefer not to isolate or contain China. So Washington must recognise this in China's attempts to divide the US and other countries. Some in Congress are pushing the punitive measures against China, even at the expense of US interests. President Biden will need courage and sound judgment to navigate these challenges, and moreover, potentially adopt a differing geopolitical outlook, accepting a new bipolar order. Well, what are your thoughts? Has the US prioritisation of defence only increased risk of war with a near-peer state? What failures of our decision makers have instigated the current state of geopolitics in Asia? And can all of these actions be reversed? I would like to take this opportunity to thank my subscribers. I work really hard in making my videos and I've just surpassed 100 subscribers. I cannot begin to voice my appreciation to all of you. Like always, stay safe, stay informed. This is ZeroFox, out.